welcome to Write On with Tom Fallwell, a bi-weekly podcast focusing on interviews, novels, reviews, and upcoming releases from indie authors. Now, here's Tom.
I have with us today Gus Kenney, and we're going to be talking with him about how he became an author and what he's been writing. And I believe he's been writing a series of books called The Complications of Being Lucy. And it sounds like it's something pretty interesting I might want to read if I can ever get my list small enough to get to it. But we're going to talk with him, so please welcome Gus Kenney. Gus, say hello to everybody and tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, I'm Gus. I'm attempting to be a writer. Live out here in Western New York, and that's pretty much the high points, really. You got a bio that kind of just sounds like you got a little bit of crazy stuff going on your Facebook page. Oh, I got crazy stuff going on all over the place.
And you're married and what was it? Had 5 4-legged children?
Yeah, well, actually, we're down to 3, unfortunately. We lost a couple this last year. But, yeah. But yeah, got 3 little pups. Today is actually the anniversary when we first got them. They were missing in the woods for about a week. So,
what kind of dogs are they? They're a mix of Amish neighbor dog and my sister's mutt that she found a couple of years ago. Oh, okay. So what started you down the author path?
Been writing ever since I was a little kid. I always just had stories in my head. I always tried to get them out. And a couple of years ago, my sister-in-law, who also wants to be a writer, she decided that the only way either one of us were going to possibly finish a book was if we decided to do a little competition with each other. And we set up a deal where every week we'd get together and exchange however many pages we agreed to. And we'd try to kind of keep each other in check like that. Mm-hmm. And that's where it kind of seriously started, where I actually got down to business and actually finished my first book.
That's actually, there's a method called Write Storm that has been around. Andy Mingle is an author that put a book out about it. And we do Write Storm sessions all the time, and that really helps get going. Basically, it's just a bunch of authors together. We start writing, and at the end of an hour, we compare and see who wrote the most words and all that. So it kind of really gets you going.
Yeah,
that's a good way to get going. Competition.
Yep. I know it motivated her pretty good, because if we were sitting there typing together, she'd freak out that she wasn't doing quite as much as me, so she'd start going faster.
So this series you've got, what made you choose this genre and this particular story that you're telling?
Well, I've always been more interested in fantasy than anything else, because honestly, reality is just horrible sometimes. But I wasn't sure about the whole young adult aspect of it, and someone explained to me that all young adult really means is that it could be acceptable for a younger than normal audience. And I realized as I was going that the content kind of fit that. So I just labeled it as young adult fantasy and went from there with it. Mm-hmm.
The story itself. Where did you get the idea for the main character?
That was a weird combination of events. I was actually working on a totally different story at the time, and I was online looking for kind of some artistic inspiration for a couple scenes. And I thought I had seen the name Lucy Bison as a tagline to a photo somewhere, and the name stuck in my head. And when I went back the next morning after I had a few hours sleep to verify it, I couldn't find it anywhere online except for mentioning a buffalo that was down in a zoo in Carolina. So I'm not sure where the name ever actually came from anymore.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the story, maybe just in the first book, what's going on?
About what?
Kind of a synopsis of what the story is about.
Alrighty. The story starts off with the changeling in the cupboard. It's first book in the series. It's about Lucy when she's on her 9th birthday. And she ends up meeting a kid from the park behind her house that her uncle that she lives with has forbidden her from ever going into. And just his presence on that particular day starts to unlock a series of events that make her realize her entire life is not what she thought it was at all. Her family isn't who she thought, and the world around her has pretty much been a whole lie to her.
Ah, okay. So the fantasy world, would you call it, does she go to a fantasy world, or is it more of a paranormal kind of thing?
It's more of a fantasy world. There's elves and trolls and witches and some succubuses.
Okay.
And she kind of learns how they are everywhere in her world for the first couple of books, and then she eventually later on in the series makes her way to theirs and sees what's going on more with their end of the world.
Okay. So what is it that Lucy is basically trying to accomplish?
Mostly to survive. You find out in the first book or so that some very important people from the fantasy realm want her dead.
Okay.
So a lot of it is her trying not to get killed, and also learning more about who she is, who her family is, and basically, surviving and learning about this other world that she never knew about, and that she has an intimate role in that she never knew about before.
Okay. Is the series just the 3 books, or is it going to continue?
It's going to continue. I'm hoping for 6 altogether. At least that's what I have planned out now. As my wife likes to remind me,
Go ahead.
What's that? Oh, as my wife likes to remind me, I usually can't keep a story small, so there's a chance it might expand to beyond 6.
Okay. Do they need to be read in order? Some people write a series. Each book can really kind of be read standalone, but it's really best if you read them in order. But I'm not sure how you've written these. Are there like cliffhangers?
Yeah, there are some. It's most of the cliffhangers are for more of the kind of overarching story, but most of the books themselves, the main points in them, I try to wrap up nicely by the end.
All right.
But I do recommend reading them in order, because I've had a few people not, and they've found a couple spots they get confused on.
Okay. So how long ago did you start writing this series?
Back in 2014, 15, I think I started it.
Okay.
It was 14, yeah. Started it, I think it was around my birthday, actually, so around May of that year I started it, and by March of 15, I had it, put it out to the world.
Okay.
And On average, it usually takes about 8 months or so to knock one out. So.
Okay. When do you expect the next book to be coming out?
Oh God. See, I
we won't
finally
hold you to it.
Well, thank God. I'm horrible with deadlines. The third book here, I originally told people would be done in November, and I didn't get it out till August. So.
Okay.
So I'm trying to aim for 1 year. So I figure if it's done by 2018, that's about the best I can estimate right now.
So the third book, Trader's Niece, just came out.
Yep.
In August.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you doing print versions as well? Or just
I've been trying
ebook?
to. No, I'm doing usually both. The third one's still waiting on print because my last editor is having personal issues that are making it take forever.
Okay. Are you self-publishing or are you using a publisher?
I self-publish through Amazon in CreateSpace. I do the Kindle with Amazon and CreateSpace for the print versions.
Okay, I do the same thing. So, yeah. So what made you decide to? Did you ever try to submit your manuscripts to agents or anything, or did you just go the indie route right off the bat?
With the Complication series, I've only done it straight through independent. The books I've gotten done before, the ones I did with my competition with my sister, those ones I actually tried to submit right to publishers directly, and that, understandably, they rejected. So, so after 2 attempts at that, I decided maybe independent would be a little better way to go. So I've been very pleased with the result of doing that so far, though.
Okay, good. What's been the biggest help to you in getting your books published? In terms of publishing, there's just the simplicity of how they have it set up to actually get the word in and get the word out has been great. The fact that I pretty much can almost control every aspect of it and decide when I want it to go out, how I want it to go out, that stuff's been absolutely wonderful to just have that control. You're like me. I want control.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that part too. You said you're in competition with your sister. Has she been your biggest source of inspiration?
In a weird sense, she's been a good source of inspiration and usually what not to do.
Okay.
A lot of valuable lessons and ways not to get the books done or how to go about them. But she's also been really good because even though she's never finished a single book, she's done an incredible amount of research on the publishing and marketing and that aspect of it. And because of that, she's been able to give me a lot of insight into, it was her idea originally to look at Amazon as a possibility for the publication, and she's looked up a lot of the marketing and aspects like that of, how to, pick your genres or the keywords and things like that to kind of market them a little bit better. So she's been great for that stuff.
Why did you choose the fantasy genre? Is that something you've read a lot of?
Yeah, I don't think I read much of anything else growing up.
Okay. Who's some of your favorite authors?
Terry Pratchett, David Ennings, Fred Saberhagen. I think I read just about everything those three guys ever wrote growing up. A little bit of Lloyd Alexander. Yeah, pretty much all fantasy. I don't remember reading much of anything else.
All right. You've been reading pretty much all your life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that started off with a competition too, actually.
Oh, did it?
A kid in school. Yeah.
You
Back in
must
school
have
when
a
I was,
competitive spirit.
apparently, I didn't realize that till I started looking into all this stuff. It's like, wow, there's a lot of times I was really trying to stick it to someone else that I was doing well.
So
But yeah, there was
are you very present on social media, Facebook, Twitter?
I'm there and I try to be present, but half the time it's like I keep telling myself I should put something out there more to just keep people in the know, but it's like I can either spend 5 minutes writing on Twitter saying, hey, this is what's going on, or I can spend 5 minutes actually writing the book, and I'd rather work on the book because that'll last longer. That'll be more important, I figure.
Have you thought about going into any other genres, or is just real happy
Actually,
with where
yeah.
you're at?
I'm happy with the fantasy stuff, but I got a couple other books in mind that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about possibly a sci-fi story soon, which that's a scary area just because it seems by the time you come up with an idea for sci-fi, technology itself is already caught up, so it's already, real fiction and not science anymore.
Yeah. You have to think further ahead.
Yeah. And I'm told I usually think 5 steps ahead, but I usually forget step 1 through 4, so that's also an issue.
I mean, do like if you think it far enough ahead, like Frank Herbert, where mankind has already conquered the whole galaxy.
Yep.
You're bound to be able to get that out before they actually do that.
I would hope so.
So the social media, you don't are you not in any groups or?
Not really. I have a woman who does a lot of my, I guess you could say, the social media stuff. She usually sends me ideas of like, hey, join this group. Hey, join this group. And I have no idea what they actually are. It's like, okay, you recommend it. It sounds good. I'll go with it. You know what you're talking about. I'll make the book. You sell it, basically.
You have a PA.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's probably good. I don't have one. I do it all myself, and it takes forever. So that might be a smart way to go.
Well, I can recommend a good one.
I know a few, but I just never have done that. I don't. I guess it's that control thing. I really like control.
That's true. It was difficult to hand everything over to her and just be like, yeah, go ahead, because yeah.
Have you thought about doing live? Do you do any live appearances, book signings, conventions?
Actually, before I actually got the PA I have now, my aunt of all people, when she found out about the book, she wanted to basically be my promoter, and I told her, go ahead, see what you come up with. And the first thing she said was, there's a craft sale in town this fall. Why don't you set up a booth and sell your books that way? And of course, I have social anxiety like crazy, so the idea of being out there physically and promoting my book as well was scary as hell. But I've actually done it the last 2 years, and it's been a wonderful experience to actually meet the people who have read the books and enjoy them. It helps. It's crazy, but it's been wonderful.
All right, great. You got any appearances coming up we should know about?
I think I got one next month at the library in town that I used to work at. There's a big authors night going on. There's, I think, myself and 2 or 3 others, local ones, that are going to be there to meet and greet and talk to people about our books.
Where would that be?
Denzel Public Library.
In
Denzel, New York.
Denzel, New York? Okay.
Yep.
I'm sure we have some listeners from all over, so bound to be somebody there. so they can go check you out. So is there anything you want to tell us about your books and or just, anything you got coming up, any plans, sales, or anything that the listeners might want to hear about?
Well, the print version for Trader's Niche should be out by Christmas, I'm hoping. And the fourth book in the series, Daughter of Ash, has begun. So hopefully by summertime, like I said, not sticking to a hard deadline, but that should be coming out. And that'll be taking Lucy's story to not really the beginning of the end, but you're going to finally get a lot of answers that have been building up for the last 3 books and start to set up kind of where it's all going and how it's eventually going to finish up.
Okay.
So, and hopefully sometime in between all that, I might actually start another series of books.
Okay. Well, so there's probably some people listening in that thinking about being an author or wanting to be an author. Maybe they're like you, started writing and just haven't done anything. Any kind of advice you would want to give them that might help them overcome whatever fears they may have?
Besides making sure you get a good editor, honestly, just don't give up at it and never ever do it for money, basically. That's something I heard growing up for quite a few years that discouraged me from writing. Was if I told anyone that, hey, I'm going to be a writer, the immediate response every single time was, well, what are you going to do for money? Because of that, it kind of put this value on what I was doing that it was worthless. And for quite a few years, I didn't write because of that mindset. And eventually I learned it's about the story. It's about the story you want to tell. And that's all it needs to be about, is just the story. And you put it out there and you'll find the people who want to hear it and they'll love it. So it's just don't give up and make it about the story.
That's good advice.
And then,
I agree 100%.
And then get a really good editor to make sure you got all your grammar and your spelling mistakes taken care of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went down that road too. My first book, the last book I put out, I was a rewrite of the first book I put out. Since I learned how to fix all that stuff and had an editor now. So, yeah, editor's important.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guys,
I got the Changeling.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, when I got the Changeling in the Cupboard first done, I had it sent out. It had been out for about 6 months or so, and the librarian that I'm actually going to be at next month got a copy of it, and she says, I absolutely love it. She goes, but I wish you would have let me read it first because there are so many mistakes. So I told her, it's like, you know what? You want to do it? I'll let you edit it from now on. And so for the price of a medium French vanilla latte, she edits every one of my books now.
Oh, can't beat that.
No, great price, great work. I can't argue with it.
Well, thank you, Gus, for being on the show and sharing with us. And I'm going to have links to your books and to your author page on Amazon that will be on the podcast page. And we'll make sure everybody can find you and find your books. And again, just thank you for being on the show, and I was glad to have you with me.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
C.G. Blade's pseudoverse novels are a sarcastic look into mankind's race to develop the first conscious artificial intelligence and achieve singularity. The problem is that most of the runners in this race are sadistic, hell-bent on destruction of DNA as we know it, and have a fondness for those missing a Y chromosome. Why, you ask? From cobalt to crimson to emerald, this is one wild, mysterious roller coaster ride as a hidden puppet master is slowly but surely gaining ground on humankind. CG's newest novel, Onyx, goes back 26 years before Cobalt and explains the beginning of it all. Will humanity finally become steady? Tropa is all around us now as heliotrope starts to take shape. We hope you enjoy this little slice of science fiction heaven which fuses historical science fiction, satire, horror, and plenty of hidden Easter eggs along the way. Join us in liberating the pseudos from Pseudosynth Press Publishing.